Hey everyone, so in this tutorial I'm going to continue the anatomy and figure drawing series. Now this is the third video of that series. It's actually been a while since I kind of updated it. Now on that note, you'll notice also that what I've done recently is kind of like reorganize the videos on my YouTube channel. If you look on the channel page, you'll see that I have organized a lot of the videos into different playlists, and you're able to actually go through certain, like for example in the drawing fundamentals section, you can see different playlists, like, you know, on shading and so on. And I think from now on what I'll do is I'll be updating videos in those individual sections as I go along. Like for example in the animal series, where I do animal tutorials and animal drawings and demos and so on, what I'll do is I'll eventually start categorizing the animals. So for example, you'll have like bird tutorials, cats, you know, dogs, or sea creatures and so on, right? And then eventually like animals of fantasy and so on, dragons and whatnot. Okay, so I think that will be a pretty simple way to develop the content of the channel, and it's easier for you to find, because I know that, as you know, I have perhaps over like 300 tutorials or so. So, you know, it may be a little tricky for you to be delving in and trying to find what you may need. So I've tried to organize it to make it easy for you to find videos that you may be interested in. Okay. All right. So in this tutorial, ironically, I'm not going to delve directly into specifics of anatomy, like, you know, muscles and so on. But I think what I'm going to do is just as important, and it's discussing the importance of the mannequin. So what I'm going to do hopefully in this video is to give you guys some tips on how you can, well, first understand the importance of the mannequin, and two, be able to give you tips and tricks and tools and so on that you can use to try to become very proficient at using the mannequin to draw the figure. And then thirdly, you know, I'll just show you some simple examples of how you can do a mannequin drawing and then basically go from mannequin to muscle. Now, why is this so important? You'll notice that this is something that you see has been, it's timeless in terms of its use in figure drawing. Actually, this one is pretty worn. I have several of these, and this one is pretty beat up. I've used it a lot in my drawing classes and so on. Even you can see I put the center line there, and it helps when, you know, trying to organize the masses of the figure and so on. Now, why is the mannequin so important, and why is it important for you to grasp it? Okay, one, the mannequin, first of all, simplifies the human figure. Okay, it simplifies it, and it makes it a lot easier to draw. You can easily see how the proportions and masses and so on, but it simplifies the figure. Now, even though it simplifies the figure, what it does effectively is that it allows you to be able to be aware of the volume of the figure. See, so it simulates the general mass of the figure, and then secondly, it helps you to be aware of the proportions, which is very, 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 very important. Perhaps more than anything else, I would advise that you master proportions, because you can have a figure, and I've emphasized that in other videos before, you can have a figure or a portrait or any drawing that is highly rendered, realistically rendered, but the proportions are off, the drawing falls apart. And you can have drawings that are very simple, not as realistic, but it's proportionally intact, and the drawing, it's much more effective, or has a stronger visual impact than a drawing that's high, you know, very finished, but the proportions are off. Okay, so the mannequin helps you to nail the proportions pretty easily. And thirdly, which is something I see a lot of, I usually get a lot of questions on, is that using the mannequin, it helps you to learn to draw the figure from imagination. See, when you think of the human figure, as complex as it is, it's a little bit daunting or challenging to think of yourself, you know, drawing it from memory. So with the mannequin, it's much easier to reproduce the figure in a simple form, and then you can render it or refine it to be more lifelike. Okay, so I'm going to make this video pretty much in two parts. In the first part, I'm going to go over some of the basics of the mannequin, aspects of it that I think is important for you to pay attention to, and then in the second part, I'm going to give you some demonstrations where I draw the figure via or through or using the mannequin, and then I'll refine it to make it appear more realistic. Okay, so you'll see that you can actually draw the figure in a very simple way, and then, you know, build on that to make something that's more realistic. Now, something that is important for me to point out is that I've seen instructors or teachers or people who give instruction on drawing the figure, that they'll advise that you use the mannequin, but sometimes I find that it's a little bit too complicated. Now, I think that the mannequin should be very simple, very, 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 very simple, and it should not be something in itself that is so complicated that it's almost like its own field of study in itself. No, it should be something that's very simple that you use as a conduit to getting the figure. Okay, so it's not something that should be complicated. It's not something that should be complex or difficult to memorize or use and so on. It should be very simple, and I'm going to try to give you some tips on ways to do that. Now, first and foremost, just so you can get an idea of the whole concept of how I will show you how I develop the mannequin. Now, if you remember in my last tutorial, I discussed the 7 basic lines of drawing. Now here I'm drawing a cylinder. Now you should be able to do this. If you can do this, you'll be able to master the mannequin. Okay, if you're able to do this. So in other words, notice it's not like this. It doesn't look like this. You know, it doesn't look like this. You know, we will get to that eventually, but I want you to be able to focus on doing something as simple as this. Okay, now the trick with the mannequin in terms of maintaining the volume relationships is that in terms of how the mass is organized, I want you to think of this as a cylindrical mass, right? And then what we're going to do is, like, this is going to be like a perforated line. So it's almost like we're scoring the cylinder, and we're going to snap it. We're just going to pop it where the line is, all right? So now it's going to look something like, let's say it's going to look something like this. So now we popped it. See, I'm trying to maintain the relationship. Okay, now of course you don't have to be exact with this. That's fine. Okay, so basically I snap this. Okay, now this is very important when drawing the mannequin, and you're going to see this later on where I'm going with this. Okay, but the idea is, see where you snap it, these two forms attach right here. That's something that I want you to be able to maintain, and I want you to kind of think of like a line of axis running through this form. Let's say we use use something like this. So imagine like a line of axis running through this, like so, right? And it's passing through the center of this, and then it goes here, and then it goes to this. See what I mean? So it's almost like an imaginary string that's passing through these forms, and that's what's keeping it together. So this form can now, you know, it may flip on the other side, so it may eventually look something like this. But it's important to kind of think of it always having some kind of contact with each other. All right, so if it spins up, it spins down, it's almost like it's always having some kind of a contact. All right, and you have that same little axis line just passing through like that. All right, good. Now another important thing is that it's important to think of the forms being transparent. Okay, now what do I mean by that? See how I drew this line that continues all the way around? Even here, even though I did this, you should think of the forms as being transparent, and it's very important to do this when drawing the mannequin. Okay, think of the form as being transparent, like that. It's almost like they're made of glass. Okay, so I may not emphasize the other edge, the far edge, but I should be able to sense it. It's very important with maintaining volume and mass and so on, and you'll see that play out as we go along. Now, another thing that's important to be aware of is also the center line, how you use the center line. So if you have, again, a cylindrical form like this, okay, now we can place the center line at different places, all right? And we're going to use the center line as a way of indicating the position and tilt and degree of rotation of the form. So for example, if the center line is here, okay, so see, things are symmetrical like that. Now if the center line goes here, then we know that it's like that. You see what I mean? And so on. So it's important to have a sense of playing with the center line, and as well as being aware of the axis and how the forms connect. Now I think that's some basic things that we should go over. Now let's get to proportion. And I'm going to try to make this as simple as possible so it's easy for you to memorize. It's important for you to memorize the proportions of the figure. Now, a point about proportions. Sometimes I find that people get a little bit too caught up with trying to memorize the proportions of the figure so it's really exact and so on, okay? Now, you don't need to know that, I think. I don't think you need to be too exact, because what's the whole point of proportions? Proportions is really about helping you to understand the relationships between the masses in terms of size, space, and position, okay? Now, let's say you have a form like that. And there's another video where I gave some tips on how to, you should practice being able to make divisions. So say, for example, you have a line like that, you should be able to make a half. Practice dividing things in halves. Practice dividing things in thirds, like that. Practice dividing things in quarters. I think these are like and I would say fifths as well, but these are the three main types of divisions you should be able to memorize and practice doing freehand, okay, without any type of measurement, rulers or whatnot. Making halves, making thirds, and making quarters, okay. I'll go as far as to say fifths, but these are three that you should definitely learn how to do. So let's say we have a mass like this, right? Now, just in terms of an easy set of proportions to memorize is the 8-head figure. Okay, and I'm going to show you or give you a model of a mannequin that incorporates the 8-head figure. So in other words, the figure is 8 heads high. Okay, and the reason why this is so common is because it's easy to memorize. Okay, it's very easy to memorize. I'm going to show you. Now, as far as mastering proportions, of course, the head is the unit of measure, but the torso is the core of the figure that you should always think about first. Okay, the torso determines how the figure will be positioned, and the limbs are secondary. Okay, so and the head, the limbs and the head are secondary, but the torso is very, very important. And very, very easy way to think of mastering the proportions of the figure is to divide the torso into thirds. So I'm including the torso. When I say the torso, I'm including the upper torso, which is the rib cage mass, and I'm including the pelvic mass. Okay, so let's say we divide this in thirds, like so. Okay, so we have like so. So what I'm doing is I'm just lightly sketching out the top third, but I'm not making a strong division, but I'm making a division at the lower third. Now, if you can do this, that's perhaps the most important thing to be able to get. Okay, and you're going to see where this is going to be going. Now, this now is going to represent, this is going to be the 2/3 up is going to be the rib cage mass, and down here is going to be the pelvic mass. This is going to be where the pelvic girdle is. Okay, now we're going to snap it just like we did with this. See? So that's the thing. And as I said, with proportions, you don't need to be that exact, like exactly a third and so on. You just need to get a general feel of the relationships. That's what you need. Okay? So like I know this is a half, so I know that another half, this half here, this distance would represent the lower torso. So now here we have the basis for your mannequin. And that's it. Okay? So whenever you're drawing your figure, this is what we'll start with. Okay? So let's say we have a center line, we have a center line. Okay? So you should be able to do this. Just remember, this is 2/3 and this is a third. Okay? Basically, this is a head long. This is one head and this is two heads. Two heads long and one head. Okay? Now, let's start personalizing it a little bit, or refining it a little bit. So now we're not just going to make it look like this. It's almost, we're going to make it look more like an egg form, like this. It's like an elongated egg. Okay, looks like a capsule. And the same thing, we're going to divide it into thirds. All right, here we go. And when you divide it, then we're going to space them out a little bit. So this is here, and then this one. All right. Okay, now look what I'm going to do. I am going to make this lower mass look like a brief. Looks like that. And what that represents is, this is going to be where the legs are going to project. So the legs are going to project out like that. And the legs are also going to be cylindrical masses. Everything that we use are going to be cylindrical masses, because the thing is, with a cylinder, which is pretty cool, as opposed to using like a block like this. See, that's like a block form, as opposed to using a cylindrical form. See, with the block form, where the planes divide or shift, this line, this edge is always fixed. With a cylinder, you can put that edge anywhere you want. You can put the edge here, or you can put the edge here. You can put the edge here. You see what I'm saying? That's the flexibility of a cylinder. You can put the edge where you want, and then when you're ready, you can like make it block-like. So in other words, you can make the cylinder shift to the light source, but with the block is generally fixed. You see what I'm saying? So it's not necessarily a disadvantage with using this, but I like using this because it's more flexible. You can more morph it into different things. Now let's go back to this. So this is like a brief or underwear. Okay. Now at the top right here, what we're going to have is, I'll try to zoom in, we're going to put a little circle at the top. See, it's touching the top and it's coming down a little bit. I don't know how far. You can just, just judge it a little bit, right? Let's just use our eye judgment and just say, okay, it goes down a little bit. And then that's going to represent where the neck projects from. Just like that. Okay? Then at the sides, we're going to put two little circles or little ellipses like that. And then the center line comes down, and that is the torso of your mannequin. So basically, from in the side view, it would look something like this. In the side view, it would look like this. See, notice it doesn't have to be perfect, All right. So we have this, dividing it into thirds. So see this opening where the neck projects? It's going to be here. And then here is where the arm is. That represents the top. This represents the pelvis. I'm telling you, this is really easy. And this is like look at someone wearing underwear, and this is how it the openings where the leg projects from, how it follows the mass of the pelvis. Because see, the idea here is that now this is just a simplified form, but when you draw it, it's now going to look a little bit like this, because in reality, the pelvic mass, okay, tilts. Now this is the rib cage mass, it tilts backwards, and the pelvic mass tilts forward like this. See, I'm having them touch right here. This is the side view. So the neck will project like that, and this will be where the arm will project from. See? And this is the opening where the leg will project from. You see that? Okay. Now, so let's go to how the sexes differ. What are some gender differences? Now, And we're just working with the mannequin here. Very simple, okay? So let's go back to our little, well, let's start with this one, since this is it's very simple and it will help you understand it. With the male is wider at the shoulders and narrow at the hips. Okay, so let's divide into thirds. Boom, boom, like that. Okay. The male is like this. The female, on the other hand, is more the opposite. See, the male tapers down, female tapers up. But it's still, see, 2/3 at the top, 1/3 at the bottom. Okay, so this is all you have to remember in terms of distinguishing the male and female. So how does that translate to our little figure over here? It looks something like this. So like for the guy, you can either make it like this or you can just make it straight. It's fine. So for the male, me looks something like this. Alright, so we have the neckline right here. Okay, the neck. See, notice I'm not thinking about the head or the limbs. I'm just thinking about the torso here. And then see, it's like that. And we have that, and we have that. Legs project from that, legs project from that. Okay, center line. See, that's more like the male. For the female, it's more wider at the bottom, narrower at the top. So even if you have it like this, see, I'm trying to keep that 2/3 and 1/3 relationship. Okay, neckline. Okay, and then at the bottom, it goes outward like that. So it's like a bowl. Let's go to the arms and legs. Now it's pretty simple to memorize this. Okay, with the female or the male, same thing. We're just going to use it just for example's sake. See, I'm making the thighs attach. See the hips flare out a little bit right here. So it's almost like you're imagining this is three heads, remember? 1, 2, 3, okay? And then the head makes the 4th, okay? And then from here at the base is 2 heads. So you can say 1, 2, okay? Just like that. Just like that. Okay? And then 2 more heads to the bottom. So basically just attaching 2 cylinders. 1, 2. See, we're keeping it very simple here. Now with the arm, the upper arm, it flares out a little bit. You can make it like 1, let's say for simplicity's sake, 1.5. Let's think of 1.5 heads. Okay? And then for the lower arm, 1 head, and then the hand is just like 3/4 of a head. And that's it. And if you practice this simple model will enable you to be able to draw the figure from imagination so easily. And then from this, it's just a matter of like, you know, adding muscle and so on. And I'm going to show you some examples of how you can do that. Okay, so and as far as, you know, foreshortening is concerned, like if for example the leg or the thigh is lifted up, you know, you're just thinking of foreshortening. For example, if you have a cylinder like this, all right, now if this cylinder is tilted over like this, the length is pretty much the same. See, the length is pretty much the same if it tilts over like that. Length remains the same. However, if it tilts from side to side, but if it tilts forward or upwards, so for example, if if it rotates up, where we're going to see the underside, it's going to look more like this. And see, no, now the length is not the same anymore. The length decreases. And if it continues flipping over, it will just eventually just appear like this. Okay? So the same thing would happen when we're drawing the head or the arm and so on. So it's just useful to be aware of stuff like that. Okay? Now, I'm going to show you some examples of how we can apply this using the same principle that I'm showing you here, and how you can actually refine it to make some realistic figures. And you'll see how effective it is to draw from imagination. Alright, so let's do some examples on how you can just, quickly just jot down a figure using this simple mannequin type model that we have here. So let's say I'm going to draw a figure standing from the side. Okay, so here we have, see, I have that upper 2/3, it's the lower torso, upper torso, and then here is the pelvic mass. See, I'm trying to make it roughly 1/3, 2/3 up. Alright, so here we have, right here, the arm will come out. Right here, the neck will project forward. Okay, and let's have right out there the, see, it's like a brief, right? And this is going to be 2, right? So 1, 2. And you can eventually, you won't even need to, measure anything. You will just naturally start just getting things right. And we have another cylinder here, and we have the foot right there. So you're going over this to kind of like make it more realistic. See, you already have the major masses and the relationships kind of like sorted out. So all you're doing now is the chest is here, here you have, and this is something that I'll go over in future tutorials in anatomy, where I'll discuss knowing some of the more important landmarks. So of course, the shoulder would jut out right here. All right, so this would be the arm. All right. You see, all I'm doing is really just, kind of just putting in the forms. The neck projects out, the head would be here and so on. All right. The knee. And that's it. See, right here in the center of this, it's almost like you look at a mannequin or you look at a doll. The same thing will happen here. Here's where you have the hip bone will project out. Okay. See, I'm just adding little surface details here just to make it seem more realistic. But the foundation has already been set. Okay. All right. Let's say we have something that's okay, let's say we have something like this. Always starting with the torso, if you notice. Alright. I'm going to make the center line here. Okay, so I know that, okay, that will be here, and see that? And then we can have the torso like this. Or let's have the torso on this side. Okay. And we have center line continuing here. Leg attaches there, leg attaches there. Okay, I can have the leg swing down like this, or I can have the leg swing across like this. So it's almost like you have that opening and then the leg projects out from it, like so. Alright, remember, and I'm keeping this ellipse to make sure it's cylindrical. Alright. See that? We can have the other arm, one arm project here, other arm project from that side, like so. You can have the head, the neck projects out. You don't draw the head, you know, attached to the torso. You draw the neck, and then the head is attached to the neck. All right, like so. And you know, it's just a matter of attaching these forms. But of course, you know, eventually you'll have to familiarize yourself with a little bit of anatomy to get some of these things correct. So, for example, in attaching this to this, I know the deltoid attaches. Okay, in terms of, remember I said you draw bone first, so I'm drawing the clavicle here. That's a little line like that. Then I know that the deltoid goes like that. This is the shoulder muscle, and then the pecs swing out, flare out from the arms, and the biceps are under here. They go to the bone, the elbow, and then we have another cylinder right from there. See what I mean? Triceps in the back. See, all I'm doing is just attaching a knee here, calf, tibia, foot. Alright? Thigh in the back, knee, calf, tibia, and then the other foot, you know? Chest, rib cage, abdomen, the other side of the navel is always in between. See? All this mass is, all here is just, you know, rib cage, bone, flab, you know, you're just filling in. But the thing is, I'm building all of this on the solid foundation that I establish here. Once your foundation is set, then the rest is just attaching stuff. How about a front figure then? We can make one that's let's say a female then, right? So we have playing with the same torso. There you go. Very simple. Same thing here. Right, trying to make it 2. Then at the bottom, we can make it a little bit more. So say this is the center line. You can make it turn a little bit. So here we have so you're making it a little bit wider for the female. Okay. Like this. Can project it out like that. We can make the head go this way, and then we can make it. We can make it facing that way. And this goes out. See, very simple way to construct a figure here. See, Here we have the neck. And remember with the like with the female figure, you know, you don't have as much developed forms, you know, so you wouldn't have as much musculature and so on. You can make the hips flare out. See, it's really just fun doing this because you're really just, you know, it's like you're making up stuff as you go along, you know. The knee, right? All knees always, see, the elbow is always between where the two cylinders open up. Right there. You see, so it's not as difficult to just, you know, you're just inventing as you go along, okay? Okay, let's say we have, okay. See, this is the cool thing with the cylindrical type of mass at the top. See, even though I draw this thing, I'm drawing the same thing. I can put the center line here, I can put the center line on this, I can put the center line on this side. And I know the neck projects out like that, shoulder projects out like that, right? Then I can have, okay, let's make it twisted. You know, the figure is twisting. So I can have the torso, the lower torso here. So let's say it's twisting like this. Twisting like this. Like extreme contrapposto, right? Like that. So now one leg will project from here, one leg project from here, while the upper body is twisting this way and twisting this way. And this is a really fun way to invent figures, you know. So the leg projects out like that. The other leg projects out like that. Lower leg projects out like that. Projects out like that, you know. And then we can have the upper torso. Now we have the arm projecting out like that. Hope you're able to follow what I'm doing here. Alright, and then we can have the head, you know, since it's already, we can see this flowing form here like a line of balance. So we can have the head face this way. See that? And then from here it's just, you know, attaching. So here we have, notice I always put in bony landmarks, okay? Clavicle, think of where the arm is. Alright, figure is twisting. Okay, see what I mean? Now we have the see, all I'm doing is just attaching the forms. You don't have to think too much about accuracy because you're really just practicing to establish volume and proportion and form and so on. Okay. You have the line, the body is twisting. The knee is here. See that? And you have this knee again. Just think of the knee as like two little things like that, and you know, the patella, basically the kneecap, and the little, you know, little fatty mass under the bottom. So instead of drawing two circles, I'll just basically do this. See what I mean? Like that. Then the leg will be like that. See? So I'm basically doing like this. Alright. Alright, the navel here, you know. That's pretty much it. Okay, let's do one where the figure is from the back. Okay. Something like this. See, I'm starting with the same thing again. And I'm trying to think of, see, the half there. And let's do the... See, I made it a little wider so you can have an idea already that I'm going to be drawing a female. Now, of course, I could make the center line here, here, and then the leg here, here. Or I can make it, I can make the center line here, and then it goes like this. So now the leg will project here. See? It's that easy to invent the figure. And then now, another thing that's important, now that I did this. Now, when you're drawing, let's see, when you're drawing let's look at the figure from the side view, okay, like this. Now, the neck will project from the front, okay, your neck projects from the front of the torso, not the top, from the front, okay. Now, and the arm is at the side. So that means when this rotates to the front, it's going to look like this. So the neck projects from the front like that. It overlaps the torso. See that? However, when it rotates to the back, where the neck projects from is not visible from the back view. It's like that. See, now the torso overlaps the neck, but from the front, the neck is overlapping the torso. And at the side, you can see where the neck projects from the torso. See what I mean? So it's like this from the back. But from the front, it's like this. Alright? So like with this, where the neck is projecting, the neck is going to be like that. So in other words, where the neck is projecting from is not visible to us. Okay? And the head is like so. Let's say the person is looking that way. Alright. So let's say we can have a shoulder like that. And another one could be out like that. Okay? And the lower torso, the leg, is projecting out from this. So it projects out like that. See what I mean? The other one may, say, be invisible or is being hidden from the torso. So, in attaching like this, it's pretty easy. So here we go. We have, this is the upper torso. Back goes in. Like this. Here we have the, alright, like that. See, this is the, right? Can have the leg bent backwards, or could have the leg bent downwards. It's up to you how you want to do it. See? Here's the smaller rib cage at the top. You know, so basically you're seeing here how we can, you just attach, and see, we're not being too concerned with getting all the anatomy correct here and whatnot. You're just trying to get a feel for the general masses of the figure, okay? This could be your hair, so on. See? So you're just basically using these basic forms, just this and this. It's like a basin, a little bowl like that. And you put that, and then the leg projects out. You can make the leg project like that. You can make the leg project like that. You can make the leg project like that. you know, it's just up to you how you want to play with it. So you can see how this can afford you to draw the figure from so many different positions from the imagination. So hopefully this was useful for you in terms of helping you to understand how you can use such a very simple model to begin to become more familiar or proficient with the relationship between the major masses of the figure, and also find ways to practice and learn and memorize the general proportions of the figure, and also, you know, finding a really cool and simple way to learn how to draw the figure from imagination. Alright, there you go. So thanks everyone for watching this tutorial. If you enjoyed it, learned something, or was just inspired, feel free to give it a thumbs up below. I'd appreciate that. And also, remember to hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed yet, if you want to see more videos like this. And again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.